also just graduated from UC Berkeley. I'm now interning at Rainforest Action Network, which I believe is an ally of Nature Conservancy. Recently, I was made aware that from a research, I was told by a PhD student that the rate of deforestation in Indonesia in the parks and the national parks are actually higher than the deforestation rate in timber concessions, which are areas that are actually licensed for timber companies to actually cut down forests. Can you confirm those findings? And that's first. And second, can you provide some insight, especially because you guys work on the ground and you guys also work with the communities, as also with the government, why that may be happening, and also what direction do you think the Conservancy groups and the Conservancy movement should do to address that problem? Thank you.
Yeah, it is interesting for Indonesia because in Indonesia there are always many numbers that you can refer to, because as you probably know, Indonesia is a very data poor country. The data is probably not available. Government have their own data set and their own publication, but we're talking about the official numbers. I think there is a study or a report done by the government that the deforestation within national park, it's much lower compared to outside national park, that including HPH. So in the span of, I think, the last 15 years, I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but during the 1999, 2004, during that what do you call that reform area, it was true that the deforestation within national parks is very high, because during that time, because the Bupati suddenly become the local kings, become Raja Kecil and Kabupaten, they just urged the people to actually encroach a lot of national parks, because they see the national parks as like the sign or the symbol of central government power. So they somewhat play their cards using a community issue as their reasoning to actually claim lands within national parks. So during those times, in 1999 to 2003, there's a lot of national park being converted into farming areas for communities. So during those areas, the deforestation of the national parks is quite high. Just take, for example, in Kutai National Park, within those 3-4 years, 30% of the land of national park is reclaimed by the community. Even though there's some coming from Bugis, for example, they claim we are reclaiming the land from our ancestors. So it happened in the past, but we're looking back again in the last 10 years. The rate of deforestation goes up. The peak of deforestation happens in the history of Indonesia is between 1999 and 2003. So from Suharto area goes like this, and then suddenly pick out during the reform area, but again goes down slowly until today. Right now, probably in the history of maybe Orde Baru and the reform area, probably the lowest, claimed the Ministry of Forestry. So yeah, it happened in the past. The deforestation happens more in
enforcement to manage the fishery and illegal logging.
I'm not sure I can answer about fishery, but maybe this applies for any kind of natural resources in Indonesia. Yeah, we do have a lot of challenge in law enforcement. I think one of the key root causes of why we have such a high illegal logging happening in Indonesia is because of lack of law enforcement. That's actually a fact. Actually, down from the field level, from the village level, from the resort Polres level, from the Kepala Kampung level, up even to the central level, even for the army and the navy. I think there are a lot of loopholes, if you will, in our law enforcement. That's a fact. But I think the good things about this, again, I guess in the last 10 years, Indonesia has made very significant progress in terms of one, improving the law enforcement. A lot of assistance also coming from U.S. government. ECTAC, for example, the Justice Department also give technical assistance to Kejaksaan Agung, the Attorney General, as well as the police to enforce the law. The Lacey Act of US, for example, forcing the importer to have assurance on the legality of the timber coming to the United States. Also, there's also some movement in the European market also to develop this sustainability of or the legality standard. So before you enter in the European market, there has to be some certification assessment. Internally, Indonesia also succeeded 2 years ago in developing what we call SVLK, Standard Verifikasi Legalitas Kayu, or Timber Legality Assurance Standard. So this system ensures that those HPH that are satisfied in SVLK are actually legal. So they have a fee legal stamp on their product. So in terms of trend, I think it's improving. I think we have tools and mechanism and system in place to improve the legality in law enforcement, but it's still not. There's still a lot of homework to be done in the timber industry. Same thing in fishery. I cannot answer, but I think a lot of also illegal fishing happening in Indonesia because of lack of, not only because of lack of enforcement, but also lack of capacity, or maybe lack of boat or patrol boats or whatever. But Bu Gondan probably can answer more on that fishery stuff.
Coming late because I had one-day workshop with one foundation that's been a big supporter of our work in Indonesia. With regard to enforcement on illegal fisheries, I agree with what Mas Ade had said, that the Indonesian government, there are still a lot of loopholes, and the Indonesian government is still lacking the capacity. But having said that, it doesn't mean that the Indonesian government is not committed into enforcing the laws and regulations. One of the things that we're working very closely with the Indonesian government is to initiate a joint enforcement program where the community, other law enforcement, not just the police, but other stakeholders, can do patrolling together within a specific marine area. And we have found that in some area it has worked. Recently in Raja Ampat in Papua, we have caught about 3-4 times several illegal fishermen, and just 2 days ago 7 illegal fishers were sentenced to, I think it was 18 months, because they were carrying out illegal fishing activities within the Raja Ampat. So the issues of capacity is still there, but definitely in large part of Indonesia, commitment from local government, from central government, and the work with the community has shown that we are getting there. We're working together on that.
I just want to. I'm curious about China because the system, some kind of system, seems to be working pretty well when you look at it from the perspective of European and American companies, and this has been so for a long time.
Yeah.
But the minute you go and look at what's happening with Chinese corporations, it seems that some form of lawlessness seems to be more the model rather than, these very optimistic views that you've given us, which is very good. But my question then would be, how does one work with or against the forces represented by Chinese?
Is it for the timber products, the forest product, or everything?
For timber, fish,
mining,
everywhere.
everything.
But yeah, maybe you can just, it's enough to just give one example. Thank you.
Yeah, I can speak for the forest products. I cannot speak for the fishery or mining, but I think for the timber industry, for the food products, I think the trend is also very good. I think, as a matter of fact, TNC in the last 5 years also, TNC Indonesia as well as TNC China has been engaged in an initiative to connect the Forestry Agency of China and the Ministry of Forest of Indonesia to start a dialogue and start exchange programs so that as you probably know, Indonesia is one of the biggest timber exporting countries, and China is probably the biggest importing our market. So we are one of the biggest producer. China is one of the biggest consumer of timber products, both illegal and legal. So we are started this dialogue. We are getting there. We are already starting this initiative of connecting the Chinese forestry authority as well as the Indonesian authority. For example, in the last couple of years, we managed to have one delegation of Indonesian forestry official to visit China. Yeah. And last year, we also invited some Chinese delegation to come to Indonesia, specifically to learn about the timber legality system that has been developed for Indonesia. At that time, it was being developed. Yeah, it has been developed. So based on that visit, the Chinese authority director expressed an interest. Even though China right now has not been able to establish some kind of legality assurance system, haven't been able to do that at the moment. But learning from Indonesia as a producer country, they visit not only the logging companies, but also visited the processing companies such as furniture and timber product companies in Java at that time, in Perhutani, in Semarang. They actually expressed an interest. As a matter of fact, they already started the process of developing and initiating a development of timber legality standard, just like in the US, they have like the DSC Act. They want to develop this system so that in the future, China will also on board in this legality game for timber, because they don't want to leave behind also. I think there should be an end of not having its legality in place. So I think China is moving to that direction. I think the initiatives already started. It's not there yet. I think they are still in the beginning of the game. But we hope in the next few years, China will be also part of the countries who also enforce legality on their products. Hopefully not only timber, but also other commodities. But for timber, I think they already started initiating this program, the development of legality standard, learning from Indonesia. Yeah, the same thing with other products. I think there are a lot of also illegal fish going to China, but they're I'm not sure.
We have no certification.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the message is, I think because of the pressure also from the US, for example, I think China also beginning to feel the heat. That they need to embrace also this illegality, because the US market, the European market, Japanese market, the Australian market is already on board. So sooner or later, I think there need to be in the game in terms of legality. I think it should be put an end on the accepting anything from anywhere, like mining or timber or fish. We hope to see that progress coming in Chinese government, because TNC ourselves to be part of this dialogue between these two countries in terms of enhancing the marketer, the producer, as well as the consumer timber products.
I'm just wondering what the TNC vision and goals are for maybe next 5-10 years in terms of conservation in Indonesia, and what kind of metrics are you using to measure success? Thank you.
You want to answer from Marine?
Overall program.
Let's go with the overall.
Oh, sorry.
I'll explain a little bit.
I have the file actually to explain.
Because it's a long file.
It's a long file, but if you can bear with me 1 minute, I'll show you over.